listening to the Chris the Freelancer podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Chris the Freelancer podcast. This is the podcast all about location independence, time freedom, and living life on your terms. Each week we interview a new guest on the show, and today I'm sitting down with Colin Pomeroy, a former cocktail bartender who made the decision to become location independent and now travels the world as a freelance copywriter. In today's episode, we discuss Colin's journey towards location independence, including the struggles and successes, as well as a bunch of stuff that I think will really help some of the listeners out there with pursuing the digital nomad lifestyle. So sit back, relax, and enjoy episode 3 with Colin Pomeroy.
For show notes and more, visit christhefreelancer.com.
All right, I'm here with Colin Pomeroy. How you doing, Colin?
I'm good, man.
Yeah, did I say the name correctly?
Yeah, you got it right.
Okay.
Your radio voice just cracks me up.
Well,
so.
We are running a show here.
Yeah, it makes
so
sense.
Colin and I met. I remember we went to that. We were at the Nomad coffee meetup.
Yeah.
And then there was this pizza thing. Actually, if you guys watch the vlog, it's actually in the Chiang Mai lifestyle vlog. And we at the end of that one, we go to this pizza restaurant. But off camera, Colin was nice enough to offer me a ride home, but he was already giving somebody else a ride home, and I wasn't really keen to have, 3 dudes on a bike in Chiang Mai,
Yeah.
even though people do that,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was open to it, but
But yeah, I was, interested in Colin's story because he is what I like to call an inspiring nomad. And that is somebody who has kind of started from scratch and sort of decided that they wanted to be location independent and kind of made that happen. And if you've been following the blog, you would have seen that I interviewed Colin on the blog, but this is going to be a bit more in-depth. This is going to be obviously an audio form. So yeah, we can basically have a conversation and kind of get into, your motivations and how you got started. So
yeah.
So let's start at the beginning. When did you decide that you wanted to be location independent, or how did you get to a point where, you wanted to sort of work and travel and trying to pursue an alternative lifestyle?
I think it was about 5 years ago.
Okay.
It was at least 5 years ago, and I remember that I was online and I was surfing blogs. I was very into personal development, and I found this one blog called Location 180.
Yeah.
And it was run by a guy named Sean Ogle, and I just remember thinking, that is awesome. I want that guy's life. I want to do exactly what he's doing. He was running a business. Mm-hmm. He was teaching people how to become location independent and how to run a business online and live wherever you want.
Okay.
So that was my initial inspiration.
Do you remember the blog post or anything like that?
No, I have no idea what it was, but I just remember finding the site, being like, what?
Yeah.
This is possible? And then being like, this is exactly what I want,
Yeah, that's a similar story for me. Was a blog article about Peter Levels and how he was launching 12 startups in 12 months. And that's when I saw the two words together, the phrase digital nomad. And I was curious, I looked it up, and yeah, it's just it was a switch that happened really quickly. I don't know, it was similar for you. Did you read that blog post and you're like, wow, I'm starting this tomorrow, or was it just like in the back of your mind for a while?
It was definitely in the back of my mind. It was like, okay, now I have a direction and I need to make this happen, but it took me a long time to really go for it.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Did you, I think a common thread through a lot of these people that want to travel as a lifestyle is, a certain travel experience where they caught the travel bug, and that's when it starts, getting people thinking, oh, well, I wonder how I can travel long term. And a lot of people start like that. And that was me as well. I had 6 months in the US and did some traveling around the US. So I was mainly based in LA. But after that, I came back and I was just like, wow, I want to make travel a big part of my life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So similar story for you, or was it something completely different?
It was a little different. I remember thinking that I really wanted to have travel be a part of my life. So the last term in college I actually spent in Copenhagen, Denmark. And I traveled for a month after after living in Denmark. I traveled for a whole month through Europe. Okay. And I remember having this conversation with a friend of mine who also did the same thing. We went on separate paths. And I think about 3 weeks to about a month through, I got sort of bored in a way. Like, I loved traveling, but I felt like I needed some purpose. Does that make sense? Like, I mean, I can't say I was bored, but I was like, I had this internal, like, I had something that I really wanted to be doing, and I didn't really know how to gauge my next moves, and I just felt like I was like being a tourist that was just going, okay, like to the next museum and to the next thing. So I felt like I had something that I wanted to be doing, or like some purpose. And so later, I knew I really enjoyed traveling and experiencing different cultures. But when I realized you could work and build something and run a business while doing that, it sort of like put the puzzle pieces in place. Yeah. And it all made sense to me. And I was like, that's exactly what I want to be doing. If I could go somewhere, wherever I want, and have the freedom to work and explore different places, then that was sort of the missing link for me with that first Europe trip, I think. Awesome. Yeah.
And I remember having a conversation with you now about purpose-driven travel. Yeah. And I feel the exact same way. And yeah, the backpacker thing doesn't appeal to me that much, because I guess when you're a backpacker, you're kind of chasing the next experience, and you just, I don't know, like,
I feel like I'm not contributing anything. I don't know. Yeah. Like, I'm not creating anything. Yeah. It was more like I'm just doing what I'm just like following the herd, almost the herd in a way, the traveler herd, you know? Yeah. It's a different herd, but I just felt like I was sort of like, okay, next thing, I saw that, cool. And granted, you can do traveling and it doesn't have to be like that. Like, you can still have an amazing experience with just traveling. You don't have to be doing something. But I remember that specific thought coming up during my Europe travel was like, I wish I had something to like create while I was doing this, like some purpose, you know?
And was that something you had? Was that a feeling you had back home as well? Like, were there indicators that you wanted to? Well, let's talk about that. Let's talk about the career stuff. Kind of what career were you doing at the time, and what was it before reading the blog that you saw that you were looking? Oh, maybe I'll look at different careers, and then maybe that made it clearer for you, or were you working at this job, everything was fine, and then you're just like, wait, there's this better world out there. How did it sort of happen? In terms
I always
of
felt like I was in an interim job because I was bartending at the time. So I had graduated college and I went to work with the family business, and then thinking I was going to take it over one day, and then I realized that I was definitely not going to be doing that.
So the family business was a bar, or?
No, my dad had a jewelry design company. Oh, okay. So I went to work for him, and I was like, oh, maybe someday I'll grow it and take it over. But I was like, no, I need to, so I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I started bartending. I moved to the city in Oregon to Portland, and I started bartending and was basically like figuring out what I wanted to do with my life for like 5 years. And during this time I would do some personal development stuff, and I was trying different things out. But during that time is when I saw the blog, and is when I was like, that's exactly what I want to do.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
When you say that's what I want to do, you mean like kind of remote work and travel, right?
Yeah.
Like the digital nomad lifestyle. But did you have any clue about what kind of work within that you were interested in?
I did, actually. So I'll just tell you sort of the story of how it went down, I guess. Yeah. So I ended up reading Sean's blog, and then I became a member of his paid program, which is Location Rebel. And Location Rebel teaches you how to, teaches you skills that you can build a location independent business with. Yeah. And then during that time, I actually found out that Sean and I had been, we had both worked for College Works Painting back in the day, which is like this, in college you run a house painting business, and they teach you how, and then they take a bunch of your money, and then
Wow.
No, it was a great experience. I'm just kidding, but I mean, they, so we did that, and we actually rode in the same car together to one of the events. And I don't remember riding in the car with him, but he remembers it to a T. So I always feel kind of bad that I don't have that memory. But so it was after I became a member, we realized that we knew each other, and I was going through the program. So yeah, we'd email back and forth, and I'd ask him some questions. He actually lived in my hometown too, which was kind of a crazy coincidence. Yeah. So I went through his blueprints, and I was like, man, nothing's really sticking out to me. So I decided to hit him up. I really wanted to get coffee with him. I was like, hey man, can I meet you for coffee? I'll help you get one of your bucket list items off your bucket list, cross it off the list. And it happened to be that one of his items was that he wanted his name to be on a cocktail menu, like a cocktail named after him.
Yeah.
So I was like, look, I work at a cocktail bar, meet with me and help me do this, and I'll help you, get your name on a cocktail.
And you were already a part of his program at this point?
I was already a part, yeah. I just wanted some extra help.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, sure. And he definitely would have met with me if I didn't offer that. He's just like that kind of dude, but I felt like it helped having some incentive.
It's good to offer something up front just to show that you're not one of those people that take.
Oh yeah, totally. So, and so what I came to him with was I really wanted to be a video editor. So this is my first point. My first point of for any of the listeners is that I was obsessed with my passion, and I think a lot of people out there are kind of obsessed with doing something that they're passionate about. I know I was. Totally, that's all I wanted to do. It was it has to be something I'm passionate about. Otherwise, I'm not doing it. So I'll bartend until then. Yeah. So I chose video editing because I liked the idea of editing movie trailers and stuff like that. So he worked with me, and he was like, that's cool. Yeah, I mean, I think there's a way to do it. It wasn't part of his program, but he worked with me, and then, kind of coached me a bit, and then actually, over time, we ended up becoming friends, and he ended up becoming a regular at the bar I was at. And then, I mean, this is over a couple of years. It took forever. Yeah. So finally, I think one day I realized that video editing wasn't going to work. Yeah. And am I still on track with what we're talking about here?
Yeah. All right. You're good, man. Right. Actually, You're giving me a lot of ideas. There's a few points we need to talk about further, but keep going.
Yeah. All right, cool. So video editing was I just realized I was working so much, and I had gotten burned with a contract, and I felt like it was going to be very impossible. It was going to be very challenging to do location independently, and there was a lot lower hanging fruit. I could have made it work if I was willing to put years into this.
The video editing?
Video editing, yeah. Okay. And I felt very, I sort of felt defeated for a while. I was like, ugh, I can't do what I'm passionate about. What is there that I can do?
So it was definitely lifestyle first, passion second then, I guess, because, you could have possibly done that, but be forced to stay in Portland,
What, video editing?
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. It was no, I was choosing passion first. That's what.
Oh, okay.
That's what.
But you wanted to fit it into lifestyle, which was very important to you as well.
So I had chosen career first, what I was doing, and then I was trying to fit it into a location-independent model, and that was much more difficult. And I don't recommend doing that route. And it was actually, I finally made a switch in my sort of thinking about things. And I recommend to any of the listeners make this switch early on, because it only took me, between making this switch, it was less than a year to actually go location independent. Yeah. So once I made this switch, it was that I was going to choose my lifestyle first, and then I was going to fit in my income and my career second. So I just chose one of the things in Location Rebel, and I was like, all right, content writing, that's easy enough. I can figure out how to do that. I never studied writing. I didn't go to writing school, I went to business school, and I never thought of myself as a great writer, but I was like, I can do this. I'll figure it out. And then moved from content writing to now what I'm doing is copywriting.
So, okay.
Yeah.
All right. And was video editing any one of the streams he talked about in Location Rebel?
No, it had nothing to do with it. I just was I was set on making it work.
Okay, so there's a few things you talked about there that I want to touch on. First of all, that passion thing, and I think the way you're talking about it seems like passion can almost be that advice of follow your passion can almost be a bit of a trap.
Totally. Yeah.
Maybe people are some people might misinterpret that as like, I don't know, like especially with creative things, you know, like you might be highly passionate about it, but if you don't have the talent, like it's not going to work. Like for me, I used to pursue producing music and DJing.
Nice.
And I think I was in that passion trap, the same thing that you were in. I read, like you, I read a lot of self-development stuff. So I love personal development, don't get me wrong, but there's some traps in there, I think.
Yeah. And
one of the things was like, yeah, go after your dreams, whatever you're passionate about, go after, and all that stuff. Yeah. And, you know, F all the realism and just go after it. And it was like the worst time of my life, you know, like I'd be trying to make it work. I did everything. I had a mentor who was really good mentor, makes really, you know, produces really awesome EDM music to this day. And, you know, I'd sit in the chair and it'd turn things on and off, like, you know, like maybe raising a certain frequency, 1 or 2 decibels. And he'd be like, listen to the difference. And I'd be like, I don't hear anything. I just did not have the oral skills for it. And like yourself, like when I was like, okay, this is not working, I'm going to stop doing this and pursue something else. I did something else, and that is like this channel, for example, like the YouTube channel, and now like the blog, and now the podcast. We'll see how the podcast goes, but you know, I was like, yeah, I can really do this, and I'm feeling the groove, and it's coming naturally. It's still something that I really enjoy, but it wasn't that one thing, you know?
Right. Yeah.
And I guess, sorry, what were you going to say?
Oh, I just was going to say that I think that we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to choose one thing, and that's where I was getting very hung up, and I think a lot of people do. It's like you choose a career and then you do it for the rest of your life, you know? Yeah. You better choose right. That's kind of how I felt, you know? Don't fuck this up, you know? Yeah.
Actually, it's funny you say that because I recorded a video today, which will be out by the time you guys are listening this. It'll be on my YouTube channel, how to find your path in the digital as a digital nomad, or a similar title. And yeah, well, I talk about this stuff as, you know, the one thing as a trap. To sound poetic, life is but an experiment, and you kind of just go through it, trying different things and seeing what works, and kind of growing that self-awareness.
Yeah.
Seems like you agree with that?
Totally. It's all skills, too. It's all skills, and they might not seem like they're going to relate right away, but everything's somehow weirdly, I mean, not everything relates, but in the end, like, certain skills that you pick up along the way are going to play a part in your other profession in some way you didn't expect. Yeah. At least I've found that. So, yeah.
And the other thing I wanted to ask you was, the copywriting, I'm assuming that it's something that you found that you enjoy and that you found to be good at.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and that's the thing that I found was cool about just, you know, another like tidbit of advice would be just choose one thing, and really like anything that you think you can do, as far as if you want to become location independent. So I chose content writing because it was the easiest thing you could do, and I could probably learn it the quickest, probably not get paid that much, and I was like, all right, I had an idea that copywriting was going to be down the line, but I didn't really even know what copywriting was. I didn't really know a whole lot about it. I was just like, that sounds cool. You can make a bunch of money, all right. Yeah. And so when I went down this content writing path, for a while I loved that I was able to travel and stuff, and I realized I wasn't very good at it, and so it took a lot for me to get to the point where I was sustainable as a location independent entrepreneur, like making more, as much as my expenses. And it ended up leading, like, that whole trial period. I went through some rough times as I was, when I started traveling and I was working as a content writer. I went through some really rough times of just feeling like I sucked at writing, and I basically had to go through the trenches and just get a lot better and get faster. And then when I when I started figuring out copywriting and started landing copywriting jobs, that my life was so much easier because of the content writing stuff that I went through, like that whole process. And I realized that I really, really liked copywriting, and there was things about it that was like human nature and psychology, stuff that I had forgotten that I loved back in college and back in high school that played parts in this, and that it also has a huge demand. There's the marketplace will pay you quite abundantly if you're good at it.
Yeah.
So it was all these things kind of came together, and it just came from choosing the one thing. Like maybe I got lucky because I chose the right thing, but it was like the lowest hanging fruit. So
Just for the listeners who might not understand the difference between content writing and copywriting, I guess copywriting is the persuasive version of content writing, I guess. Well, you'll be better at explaining it than me, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, the content writing is just blog posts and web pages and things like that. And copywriting is more specifically from persuasive sales writing. So to getting somebody to take an action, or to be compelling. And I don't know, they all kind of, content writing has a lot of copywriting in it, but if you're a copywriter, then you're paid to like make people buy stuff. Okay. Basically.
Okay, cool. I really want to get into your the journey of you sort of figuring out the remote work and travel, but I was wondering if we could take one step back and just talk about Location Rebel a bit.
Yeah.
And for people that don't know Location Rebel, how would you describe it? There's a few different paths you can take within it. It's a membership thing? Is that correct?
No, it's a one-time fee, and you get lifetime access to basically the blueprints. So Sean teamed up with a bunch of different location independent or entrepreneur digital nomads, and who were successful in completely different fields. So, there's anything from content writing to copywriting to product creation to web development to other bunch of stuff. He keeps adding things as well. So you pay for that, and then you get the blueprints of basically how to develop that skill. And it's just, and I think one of the most useful parts of it for me was that there's a whole forum in there. He's created this whole community of people who are digital nomads, either aspiring digital nomads or successful digital nomads. And there's all people from there from all different experiences. So, a lot of newbies are in there, and then a lot of experts are in there helping the newbies. And that's where actually I got my first experience was when I learned content writing. I was like, okay, I have to do this, but I'm not good enough to get paid yet. So I went into the forums and I asked somebody, I put a post to like, who is doing content writing that wants to outsource their work to me and pay me, dog shit. And then like, you can edit my work because I'm not very good, but it'll help you. So
it'll save you time.
Yeah. So, and that's how I got my confidence up, is like I was writing and then I was getting paid literally like $1 an hour or something. Yeah. And she was, saying, oh, this is pretty good, and editing it a little bit. And then after doing that a while, I was like, okay, now I can go out on my own.
Awesome.
Am I allowed to swear on this, by the way?
Oh,
podcast?
Yeah. I think I put a swear word into... Oh no, that was a video. My last video I did, I swore in it, and I was just like, had the same thought. I'm like, like, I think that's the first time I've sweared on my YouTube channel. Like, and it was a pretty bad swear word as well. It was like the F word, or it was pretty bad. Like,
I was going from 0 to the F word.
Yeah, I think that video is probably going to get banned on YouTube. Let's be honest, just like the F word in there. I'm sure YouTube have got teams going through like the channels and like, hey, you swore.
Yeah.
No, that's cool. That's cool, man. But how important do you think was Location Rebel? And I'm not kind of asking you to sell it here or anything, but I'm just saying, like, aspects of, I guess, what aspects helped you the most, and do you think that you could have done it by yourself?
I think definitely I could have done it by myself. However, I probably would have taken a lot longer. And the other thing is that if I didn't have Sean as a friend, and I didn't do Location Rebel, I don't know if I would have done it by myself, because I didn't know anyone else that was doing this. Yeah. So I think one of the most important things about Location Rebel is not just the information in there, but when you get on there and you start communicating with hundreds of other people. I don't know, there might be thousands of people on there now, but there's hundreds of other people who are location independent and like I'm getting up every day and my roommate's going to his 9-to-5 job. All my friends, we're getting happy hour after their 9-to-5 jobs. Every weekend is kind of the same. So I'm in this bubble of, the ordinary world. And so I get online and I get on the forums. It's like all these people that are speaking this different way of life that I'm like, oh, this is possible and this is another reality. So it's reaffirming to my conscious mind and to my unconscious mind that this is possible and this is real. So I think I could have done it on my own. However, it would have taken me a lot longer just because I would have been continually conditioned by my environment that I need to like stay in one city and work at a normal job and not travel. And does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. And actually, this is something that I was discussing today with my coaching clients, and the importance of influence. And I'm very much like this. I live in the reality I am. I think I'm, like a lot of people. But that's why, I told June, if you're watching this, I told June, or listening to this, sorry. I told June that, like, I think it's good to have an idea before you come out here. But I definitely recommend anyone to, like, come out here and, like, not wait until you have it all figured out. Yeah. Or think you have it all figured out before you come out here, because I'm out here still figuring it out. Like if we're gonna go back to kind of that, like, how to find your path stuff, I didn't choose copywriting or content writing. I chose web development. Mm-hmm. And now I'm not really doing web development anymore, and I found an opportunity here in Chiang Mai to do marketing work. And it's great. And I'm working with a location-independent entrepreneur, which is who I want to be working for. And the influence I get from that, it's like entrepreneurship is his religion, and I am like at his church. You know what I mean? Actually, that's a good analogy there. I'm chuffed with myself. But yeah.
Well done.
Do you know what I mean? Like, that influence is so important. And one of the first client I had today, Femi, he said to me, there's just like, just talking to you is good because I need to, sort of have that influence, associate with people that are living this lifestyle and kind of in this world, because it's easy to get caught up in the ordinary world. And, you might read a blog post and then be like, oh, that sounds cool. I mean, like, there's so many people actually that are like, oh, that sounds cool. And I don't know whether it's, some of them I'm sure are just like, oh, I just want to travel and I don't want to have to work. But of course there's work in being a digital nomad. Right. But some of them, I think, say that, and then I think they want it, but then they go back to their regular life because that reality holds strong. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think that's actually a really good point. What you brought up was kind of the balancing, or the fine line of being over-prepared and under-prepared, because you don't want to wait and be like, master your skills for years and years before you start travel or before you go somewhere. Or maybe you do, I don't know. But you also want to have a plan. You don't want to just start, leave and then not have any skills that you are trying to develop. Yeah. And I think that's an important part. But it's, I think, erring on the side of the sooner you can do it, the better. Like the sooner, because you can come to a place like this and live pretty inexpensively and learn a ton here just by being around people. Like you said, like that influence, that environment that you start embodying that as part of your persona. Like you become the digital nomad just by being around people.
Yeah, definitely.
So, yeah, I would say having savings is definitely key. Yeah. I gave myself, when I decided content writing, I gave myself 9 months to, travel or like to quit my job and buy a one-way ticket. And I saved up, I think I had 10 grand in savings, maybe something like that. I sold all my stuff and I had my skill. So I had my skill that I'd been working on for that 9 months. And then I sold my stuff. I did a little traveling and I got here, and that skill was not enough to sustain my expenses level. Yeah. Like it helped slow it down, the burn rate, but it wasn't enough. I wasn't good enough yet. But because I forced myself to get out here, it was like sink or swim, and I luckily swam eventually.
Okay.
I burned through a lot of savings though.
Yeah.
Like with traveling and things. So that's my other like recommendation is give yourself some time and save up some money. Plan for, you know, like you're not. It's going to take a little while before you start earning quite a bit of money. Well, everyone's different, but it took me a while, you know.
Yeah.
So.
Nah, I get you. And actually, this part of your journey is what I wanted to talk about next. Actually, so yeah, the point where we already covered you joined Location Rebel, finally made the switch from video editing to content writing.
Yeah.
And then I guess was the switch into copywriting, was that before you left?
Oh no, you mean when I left the United States?
Yeah.
No, I was still doing content writing. I'd been doing that for a while.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I'd been doing that for part-time, very, very part-time for 9 months. During the day I would do that, and then I would bartend at night. Okay, cool. And then I took the trip, wait, what was the question? What am I talking about?
Yeah, I was actually, it was the transition from content writing into copywriting.
Oh, yeah,
That was you're saying that's recent?
That's been pretty recent, yeah.
Okay.
That was the last few months.
Okay.
And I've been studying copywriting for longer, but the last few months is when I made the official switch.
Okay, so talk us through it. You left you got a one-way ticket to where?
Yeah, so I actually went to Paris first because my
not a typical digital nomad
the cheap
destination.
places, right? So I went. My friend was actually getting married, and we got our invitations in January of that year, and I was like, this is it. That's when I'm going. I'm going to leave on my one-way ticket, and I'm going to go to his wedding, and it's going to be awesome. It's going to kind of start off the trip. So I went to Paris, and that's kind of why I burned through all my savings. Is like me and a bunch of my college friends are all in Paris, and we're going out every night to like €50 dinners.
And I'm sure they didn't have the same perspective of what you were trying to do.
No, they're going home in like a week, so they're not trying to save money at all.
I met a guy. For those of you who've been listening to the podcast, we've had Blake and Zach on. But when I met Blake and Zach, they were with another friend, George. And I hope to have George on the show as well, but he's a copywriter as well. And he got caught up with some tourists, man, and that's it. Like he was off in Copenhagen partying. This is the stuff we're gonna have to talk about on the video. But yeah, it's funny. Like you get a new challenge when you become a digital nomad, and that is like people think that you're on vacation, and then they just. And then once you hang out with people that are on vacation, you're like, oh, well, now I have to act like I'm on vacation. And then, anyway, so I thought I'd add that tidbit in there. Yeah.
No, that's exactly totally what happened. So I went to Paris. And I felt like I had felt like 10 grand is, I don't know, maybe it was 9.5 grand, but 10 grand, I felt like I could just be doing whatever. Like it felt like it was going to be a long time before I was going to be burning through that. Yeah. So I was a little careless with how I was spending my money and stuff. And I was like, oh, I'm here. I might as well go to Amsterdam. And, and then all of a sudden, and then we went to Oktoberfest. I went with a couple friends. And then all of a sudden,
you're off the rails.
I was like, I need to get the fuck out of Europe. It's so expensive here. Yeah. And so I flew to...
Western Europe especially.
Oh, yeah, totally. And I flew to Bangkok. And this whole time I have not been working. Like I had figured out sort of a break because I didn't want to, a break in my contracts and stuff. And so I got to Bangkok, and then I didn't really know, and I still felt sort of in vacation mode. So I went and took some scuba diving lessons down to the islands. And that was the problem that I ran in, was hanging out. I felt like I was in vacation mode, and I wasn't ready to start working yet, and I was hanging out with all these other people no one was working. Yeah. So after I got my certification as a scuba diver, I was like, all right, I need to get some work done. So I went straight to Chiang Mai because I had this. I heard there was some other people. I felt like it was a good place to set up shop and start working and stuff. Yeah. And
can I just stop you there? How did you know that Chiang Mai was we're here now, and we know Chiang Mai is probably the best city in the world to connect with other digital nomads, and it's got the right mix of everything. But did you know that before you got here, or
actually come to think of it,
what was the indicator that was like, oh yeah, Chiang Mai sounds like a good one?
Come to think of it, I didn't know. I actually don't think I knew that it was such a digital nomad hub.
Yeah.
I had heard about it maybe, but it really wasn't on my radar. Thailand was kind of on my radar, but that's as far as I knew. And Chiang Mai, I knew that it was a cool city that wasn't Bangkok, that wasn't like crazy. Yeah. And I just seemed from what I'd heard about it like a good place to like get some work done and set up shop, you know?
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So how long ago was that?
That was in beginning of October of last year. Okay. So, yeah, like, I don't know, beginning to mid-October.
Would you say, so you've been based in Chiang Mai since then?
Yeah, I've been back home to Portland, and then I did some Vietnam.
I'm sure we'll get to.
Yeah.
Hopefully. But, okay, so I'm kind of based here as well now, but why Chiang Mai in terms of what made it stop you from traveling? And was it because you felt like if you kept traveling, you'd be in vacation mode? Was that the case?
I'd actually asked Sean for his advice about this. I remember sending him an email and being like, "Hey, what do you think? Should I travel or should I like set up shop and work? Travel and try to work?" And his advice was like, you know, you can always travel. I would just find a place to start working. And I thought about it, and that's kind of when I decided, it's going to be a lot easier for me to really, because I was like doing okay as a content writer, but I wasn't building the kind of business that I was just, you know, in abundance of income. Yeah. So I really wanted to like stay in one place and build a business, and then build a location independence business so later I could be traveling and, you know, have more freedom and stuff. So I came here and and when I started working, I realized that I remember having this sort of, it all hit me once because I stopped vacationing, you know, and then I got here, I got an apartment, and all of a sudden I was completely alone, and I was trying to work every day, and I was like sucking at it, and I was going through this really hard time in content writing, trying to make, you know, enough money to fit my expenses, and I got really like depressed. I got very I was like, I don't know, a single person, what have I done? Like, I don't even like content writing because I suck so bad at it. And
were you just being hard on yourself, or did you actually suck?
I mean,
because you're a good copywriter.
I'm good now, but it's because I went through that period of sucking, and I was sucking. Yes, it was taking me a very long time.
So in the beginning, you were sucking.
In the beginning, it was taking me a very long time to write articles that were, you know, like I was basically taking like 6 hours to write a 400-word article. Oh, wow. Yeah, and I was getting paid like $30 for it or something. Yeah. So I don't know what the math is on that, but it's not very good. So anyway, I got really bummed out, and then I was like, oh, I don't know anyone, and then I don't know, something switched, and I was like reading some book or something, and
wow, such a pivotal moment that you just somehow forgotten.
Right. Yeah. Actually, I remember I was reading the book Mastery, and it was about it was by Robert Greene, people who become masters, and then I also had read a Mark Manson article at the same time, and I'd also reached out to my family and was like, hey, and I asked them what, you know, I think I was just kind of sharing where I was at. I was like, I think I fucked up. Wow. Like, I don't know what I'm doing here, and I'm like doing this wrong career, and I was kind of asking them like, what, you know, do you have any advice for what I like to do? What else I could be doing for a career? And then, I don't know, amidst all that, it was like I realized that I was doing exactly what I wanted to be doing, and I really just needed to push through. Yeah, totally. And so I share that because it was like a really tough time, and I think it's always darkest before it's dawn. You know, like... Yeah,
I don't know, maybe that's a common thing because I had that as well. Oh, really? And yeah, like actually a few times where like things get hard and then you have a tough day and you think, well, like, what am I even doing here? Maybe I'll just go home or something. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, that's just like you said, it's just a tough period and darkest before it's dawn kind of thing.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
For me, I was, you know, freelancing wasn't really, the online freelancing through Upwork thing wasn't working too well for me, and the particular skills I was choosing to, well, let's just say it was video editing, which makes sense. I was trying to, you know, sell myself as a video editor on Upwork for a time period, yeah, and then afterwards I was just like, yeah, look, I'm going to go after what, I really want. And that was to get something like more substantial, get like some kind of job. And lo and behold, well, how do you say it? Lo and behold? Yeah, lo and behold, this opportunity came up with working with Max, doing marketing for him. And yeah, he could just see my drive and like I had experience with doing marketing on my own sort of projects. I had, very interested in that stuff. And yeah, it just happened like that. So I don't know whether that was law of attraction, or I guess you do attract the things you focus on. But yeah, I don't know. It feels like the universe does conspire to help you when you're on the path, I guess.
Yeah, it's totally, like, if you're committed, and whether or not it's the universe, or whether it's just other people, or people could see that, like, totally, like, once I don't know, like, jump and the net appears or something, whatever this quote is, like, if you jump the net will appear. Is some quote. Yeah. And it's exactly like what the experience that I think we had as well, like making that leap. And it's not easy. It's not just all butterflies and rainbows the whole time.
Nice.
And I think there is a tough part. Like it was a struggle that I had to go through, and I share that because so people can expect that it's not an easy road, and there's going to be a lot of unknown, and it's going to be kind of scary at times. Yeah. But that's when it gets really rewarding, is right after that, like things, obviously, if you push through, then like I was able to get through that period. And then it really what was I even saying? I totally lost it.
That's all right.
We were talking about the stuff when I was like feeling depressed and everything. Oh, yeah. So I was like, fuck it, dude. So I was like, fuck it, man. Like, I can do this. And I just got this different drive. And then I started looking at I looked at my work in a whole different way. I looked at it, instead of something I was going to be stuck in for the rest of my life, it was like, no, this is a skill I'm building, and it's not going to be permanent, and it's to live the lifestyle. Again, it brought me back to the lifestyle thing, because I was focused so much on what I was doing. And I was like, this is pretty cool. I'm out here. So I had this totally different perspective switch. And, it was like when dawn came, or whatever you want to call it, it was great. I had this totally different outlook. And then, everything felt like it was conspiring in my in my favor. Like all of a sudden, like I got connected with all these other digital nomads, and I was no longer by myself anymore, and I had people and positive influence, and that was a huge part of it. A huge part of like being able to talk with other people about my struggles too. Finding this community here and being like, look, I'm sucking at this writing thing, and so
okay. And you said you came back to that lifestyle thing again, but I mean, I get it, because I'm out here and people might not see it like, oh, Chris, you work really hard and you're out here, and why don't you just go back home and you can have a nice 9-to-5 job, and then chill out on the weekends and have a nice, steak dinner and all that stuff.
Right.
And then, I guess we talked at the beginning about how we wanted to travel, but let's be honest, we're not traveling a lot at the moment. And so what do you mean when you say the lifestyle? I know I can describe it, but for you, what is it?
Do you mean the lifestyle, my lifestyle, or a lifestyle of a digital nomad?
Well, okay, so maybe I'll start then. There was a question, I'm thinking a particular question on my YouTube, one of my YouTube videos, where somebody asked me, oh, how often do you work? And I'm like, well, I usually work 6 days a week, and from these times. And he's just like, whoa, that's a lot. And then I'm just like, yeah, I can understand how people back home would think like that. Right, but for me, I guess the lifestyle is about choice and flexibility. Yeah. And you have this freedom. And the reason why I work hard is because I like working towards the rewards of what I'm doing. Is it's rewarding, basically. And I have that flexibility where who was I talking to about recently with freelancing? I think it was I think it might have been Blake, actually, who was on the first episode on this podcast. But it was about how you can like accelerate your career with freelancing. If you're in this job, and you want to work your way up the ladder, you got to wait for the person above you to drop out. Maybe they get a better job, they go somewhere else, they get fired or something, and then there's a spot that opens up, and then you take that. And so climbing the ladder can be a long and arduous process. And we were talking at dinner about, I can't remember the specific example, but somebody was talking about how he went from like, 5 to 10, in like one step because of just finding the right client. So I don't know, did those give you some ideas?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So the question is, what is the lifestyle like for me? Like,
yeah, like what you said, the lifestyle is the motivation. What is the lifestyle?
Okay, so it's I think the value of freedom is one of the biggest things. The freedom and ownership and kind of creativity. Because like you said, it's once I started freelancing and working on my own and building my own business, it's all me. And exactly, there's no longer a ceiling as far as what I can do. Yeah. Everything that I put into it is stuff that I can continue growing, and it's very like it's very measurable, right? So I directly impact how much money I make and how successful I am. So when I'm working, 6, even 7 days a week, it doesn't feel like I'm working because I'm doing this. I'm like building this thing for myself. It's my own thing, it's like creative. And to me, the lifestyle always comes back to I'm creating my ideal lifestyle. I'm living more and more every day, my ideal lifestyle. Maybe not every day, but as much as I can every day, like my ideal lifestyle. And that was an exercise that I got from Sean back in the day. It was where you basically write out your ideal lifestyle, like your ideal day in sort of a general sense, like your ideal work day, and you write out every detail of it, what you do from when you wake up to when you go to bed. Nice. And I've sort of adapted that into like my ideal lifestyle. And that's, to me, it revolves around freedom, and it revolves around building my own thing. And it's constantly changing, but I try to live more of that every day. And to me, that's why I'm out here and why I'm doing what I'm doing, is to live more of that ideal lifestyle. And that's what totally motivates me, So, and it doesn't, like when I do my ideal lifestyle, it's not like when I'm talking about my work, it's not this concrete thing like I copyright for 5 hours. It's more like I contribute my creativity in my own way somehow that gives a lot of value to a lot of people, and I can do that in various ways. And right now I just happen to be doing it in copywriting. Does that make sense? That answer to the...
That's awesome.
Nice.
And that's a great place to start finishing up. I think I always like to end on a high note. So wrapping up, do you have any kind of big tips, anything you want to like end on? What's kind of like, if you had like a minute to sort of give some advice to somebody, do you have anything you would say in that short space of time?
Yeah, I want to go back to what you were saying about how, the universe sort of conspires with, and I can't say this for sure because I'm not like a scientist, or I don't even think that's science.
Well, maybe not science. Man. Some metaphysical kind of stuff.
I have no proof that this actually works, but in my experience, once I made a choice, a firm direction, like a firm choice, then everything, even though it was very challenging, worked and helped push me along in that direction. And so with that in mind, it's actually a lot easier now that I'm living this lifestyle. It's a lot of it was the mental barriers, I think, that I had. And had I seen this image of me living here like this 5 years ago, I would have done this a lot sooner. Just having known that it wasn't so crazy and scary and difficult, and it wasn't this totally out there thing. Yeah. So I would say just do it, man. I don't know. I mean, that's terrible. That's terrible advice. But really, like, just, like making it happen, like you were saying earlier, making it happen sooner than later. Don't have paralysis by analysis, and, make sure every duck is in line before you go. Yeah.
All right. Thanks for coming on the show, Colin.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, really good chat. And thanks for going real in depth with us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. All right, guys. Thanks for listening. If you want to find out more about Colin, as well as everything else we talked about in today's episode, You can find all of that information and more in the show notes. Just head to christhefreelancer.com/podcast/Colin-Pomeroy. That's christhefreelancer.com/COLIN-POMEROY. And as always, thanks for listening, and we hope to see you in the next episode with Sanir Alayov.